The signal arrived at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, a pulse of coherent light, slicing through the cosmic silence. Dr. Lara Voss was the one who caught it. Not because she was supposed to be monitoring the array at that hour, but because she hadn't slept in 32 hours. Again, her fingers froze over the keyboard, the jagged spike on her screen, defying every known astronomical phenomenon. Too rhythmic, too deliberate. Across the lab, Javier Ruiz stirred from his half-slump against the server rack. Ilara, if this is another pulsar, it's not a pulsar. Her voice was quiet, razor-edged. She reran the analysis. Same result. Javier was beside her in 3 strides, his breath sharp with stale coffee. The data glared back. A repeating sequence, 14.3-second intervals, locked onto a frequency no natural source should use. His dark eyes flicked to hers. You thinking what I'm thinking? No, because that's insane. But her hands were already moving, isolating the signal, filtering out cosmic noise. The lab's hum faded into white static in her ears. By dawn, they had the first fragment decoded. Not random noise. Mathematics. Prime numbers, then Fibonacci sequences, the universal hello of civilization smart enough to count. Director Hale's office smelled of old paper and bourbon, the kind he wasn't supposed to keep in a federal facility. He listened in silence as Ilara laid out the evidence, Javier interjecting with nervous precision. When she finished, Hale leaned back, his chair groaning. You're telling me, he said slowly, that we just got a postcard from E.T.? More like a distress call, Javier muttered. Ilara tapped the decoded transcript on Hale's desk. The message was brutal in its simplicity. We are trapped. Orbit collapsing. No escape. If heard, reply coordinates. Time short, asterisk, asterisk. Hale exhaled through his teeth. Where's it coming from? LP 791 to 18. A red dwarf, 12 light years out. Ilara's thumbnail dug into her palm. The math suggests a planetary body breaking apart. If they're on a moon or a station, they're about to be scrap metal. Hale rubbed his temples. Christ, do we even answer this? The debate raged for weeks. The United Nations formed a shadow committee, half scientists, half spies, while the world's governments oscillated between panic and paralysis. The risks were monstrous. What if the signal was a trap? A predator luring prey? What if replying painted a target on Earth? Ilara argued anyway. Every closed-door meeting, every hushed conference call. They're dying, she snapped at the NSA's stone-faced liaison. If we ignore this, we're no better than every other civilization that probably heard them and looked away. Javier, ever pragmatist, built the counterpoints. We don't know their definition of trapped. What if no escape means they're contagious, or their orbits collapsing because they pissed off something bigger? But in the end, it was Hale who made the call. We answer, he said, tossing a classified folder onto the table. Inside, a single-page presidential order, and signed but undeniable. But we don't send coordinates. We send a question. The transmission left Earth on a cloudless night, a laser-tight beam aimed at a dying star. Ilara had written the message herself, short and blunt. We hear you. What threatens you? Asterisk, asterisk. No coordinates. No promises. Just 4 words flung into the dark. As the array powered down, Javier nudged her shoulder. Think they'll reply? Ilara watched the last flicker of the laser fade. I think, she said softly, they never expected us to ask. Section 2. The silence after the transmission was worse than Ilara had imagined. For weeks, she haunted the lab, jumping at every blip on the monitors, every stray cosmic whisper that might asterisk, be a reply. The world had moved on, headlines shifting to the latest political scandal or economic tremor, but she couldn't. The alien's plea gnawed at her, a splinter lodged deep in her mind. Javier at least tried to distract her. You ever think they just stopped listening? He asked one night, tossing a stress ball between his hands. Like, they sent the signal, then got vaporized 5 minutes later? Ilara shot him a glare. Optimistic. Realistic, he corrected. Space is big, and everything in it wants to kill you. She didn't answer. The truth was, she'd run the numbers. If the aliens' world was truly collapsing, they might already be dead. The thought made her chest tighten. Then, on the 43rd day, the array screamed to life. Illyra nearly knocked her chair over, scrambling to the console. The signal wasn't like before, not a neat, repeating pattern. This was chaotic, frantic, as if whatever was sending it had no time left for elegance. Javier bolted in. Hair mussed from his cot in the break room. Tell me that's not. It's them. Her fingers flew across the keys, filtering, decoding. The message resolved in jagged fragments. Gratitude for answer. No time. Void Eaters here. They... Asterisk, asterisk. The transmission cut off. Then, 3 seconds later, resumed. They follow signals. You must silence yours. Now! Asterisk, asterisk. Illyra's blood turned to ice. Hale arrived within the hour, his usual gruffness sharpened by the pre-dawn wake-up call. He read the decoded text, then read it again. Void Eaters, he muttered. That's not ominous at all. Javier paced behind him. They're saying we led something to them. Or worse, that we're about to lead it here. Illyra shook her head. No, they didn't know we'd answer. They're warning us not to broadcast again. Hale's jaw worked silently. Then, with the calm of a man signing a death warrant, he reached for the secure line. We need to shut down every deep space array. Now! The lockdown was immediate, brutal, and entirely too late. Within hours, observatories from Arecibo to the Chinese lunar base reported anomalies, flickers of movement at the edge of the solar system. Too fast for asteroids, too quiet for ships. The data was fragmented, contradictory. But one thing was clear. Something had followed the signal home. Illyra watched the feeds from Mission Control, her stomach a lead weight. Next to her, Javier exhaled sharply. Well, at least we know they weren't lying. Hale's voice crackled over the comms, tight with forced calm. Voss! Ruiz! Get to the secure bunker. Now! She didn't move. What about the arrays? If we can send another pulse, maybe we can... And say what? Javier snapped. Sorry we got you killed. Here's our address. Illyra whirled on him. We don't even know what these things are. The aliens tried to warn us, and now we're just going to hide. A new voice cut in, low, accented, unfamiliar. They are not hiding. They are waiting. Illyra turned. A woman stood in the doorway, her dark eyes tracking the screens with eerie focus. She wore no insignia, no ID, but the way Hale stiffened at her presence said everything. Who the hell are you? Javier demanded. The woman smiled, thin and humorless. Dr. Lean Gwyn, and if you want to live, you will listen very carefully. Lean's briefing took 7 minutes. 7 minutes to unravel everything Illyra thought she knew. The Void Eaters weren't aliens. They were something older, hungrier, a remnant of the early universe, dormant until the first civilizations began shouting into the dark. They followed signals, yes, but not to communicate, to consume. They've hit 12 systems we know of, Lean said, pulling up star maps marked with crimson excess. Everyone went silent after a distress call. Javier paled. So we just rang the dinner bell. Lean nodded. But we have one advantage. The Void Eaters are slow. It took them decades to reach LP 791 to 18 after the aliens' first signal. We have time. Illyra's mind raced. Then we use that. We find a way to fight back. No, Lean's voice was final. Our orders are to evacuate key personnel and sterilize all deep space tech. Nothing leaves this system. The room erupted. Hale argued protocol. Javier cursed, but Illyra just stared at the star maps, at the excess, at the pattern. Because the Void Eaters didn't just follow signals. They followed replies. And Earth had just sent one. The bunker's lights flickered as the power grid switched to emergency reserves. Illyra barely noticed. Her fingers trembled over the star charts, tracing the Void Eater's path. 12 dead systems, each marked by the same abrupt silence. Lean watched her with the patience of a sniper. You see it now, don't you? Illyra's throat tightened. They're not just hunting. They're hurting. Every civilization that answered a distress call had painted a target on itself. The pattern was clear. First contact, then carnage. Javier slammed his fist on the table. So we're screwed. Great. Can we please focus on not dying? Hale ignored him, his gaze locked on Lean. You knew. Your people knew these things were out there, and you didn't warn us. Lean's smile was razor-thin. Would you have believed us? The room fell silent. Outside, the first evacuation order scrolled across monitors. High-ranking officials, top scientists, the kind of people governments always save first. Ilara's name wasn't on the list. She pushed back from the table. We need to warn LP 791 to 18. Javier groaned. Did you miss the part where signaling is what gets you eaten? They're already dead if we don't try. Ilara turned to Lean. You have stealth tech, something that can punch a message through without the Void Eaters tracking it. Lean studied her for a long moment. Then, with deliberate slowness, she reached into her jacket and slid a data chip across the table. This is a quantum burst transmitter. One shot untraceable. But it's not for them. Ilara picked it up, the metal cold against her skin. Then who? The next ones. Lean's voice dropped to a whisper. The Void Eaters aren't just killing civilizations. They're erasing evidence of their existence. We send this to a relay outside their patrol routes, a warning for anyone else stupid enough to answer a cry for help. Hale exhaled sharply. You're talking about a time capsule for the apocalypse. I'm talking about a trap. Lean's eyes gleamed. Every system the Void Eaters hit goes dark, but their victims fight back first. We just need to make sure the next ones do it better. Ilara's pulse roared in her ears. The chip in her hand suddenly weighed 1,000 pounds. This wasn't salvation. It was sabotage, a delayed strike against an enemy they couldn't hope to face head-on. Javier grabbed her wrist. Ilara, think, if we do this, we're declaring war on something that's wiped out stars. She met his gaze. We already did that when we hit reply. The transmitter was smaller than she expected, a sleek black module barely the size of her palm. Lean had smuggled it in under the noses of the evacuation teams, along with a set of coordinates. A dead zone between galactic arms, where the Void Eaters rarely ventured. It's a one-way trip. Lean warned as Ilara prepped the launch sequence. The second you activate this, every sensor in the solar system will scream. They'll come. Javier hovered at the door, his usual sarcasm replaced by a grim tension. So this is it? We just die as bait. Ilara didn't look up. We die as a distraction. The math was brutal but clear. The Void Eaters would prioritize an active signal over a silent, fleeing ship. It might buy the evacuees an extra hour. A day. Hale appeared in the doorway, his uniform rumpled, his face haggard. They've started bombing the arrays. No emotion, just fact. Ilara's fingers froze over the console. All of them. Everyone they can hit. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. There's a shuttle waiting. You don't have to do this. For the first time since the signal arrived, Ilara laughed. It was a raw, broken sound. Yeah, I do. The console beeped, ready. She hesitated, then typed one last addition to the data packet. Not just a warning, but a plea. If you hear this, don't answer. Run, asterisk, asterisk. Lean nodded approvingly. Now they'll know we knew. Ilara hit send. The transmitter flared to life, a single pulse of light slicing through the dark. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the alarms began to wail. On the monitors, the Void Eaters changed course. The alarms howled like wounded animals as the Void Eaters breached the heliosphere. Ilara watched the monitors with a strange detachment, her mind too full of numbers to feel fear. 12 hours since the transmission. 6 since the first deep space arrays went dark. Now, the things they'd only seen as shadows on a screen came into focus. Vast, shapeless masses riding the solar wind, their edges flickering like static given form. Javier gripped the console until his knuckles whitened. They're faster than she said. Lean didn't flinch. They're hungry. Hale's voice crackled through the comms, distorted by interference. Bunker locked down in 90 seconds. If you're staying, make it count. Elara didn't move. The quantum transmitter had done its job. Half the evacuation ships had slipped away while the Void Eaters pursued their decoy signal. But the math still gnawed at her. "We're missing something," she muttered, pulling up the aliens' original message. "They follow signals, not just replies. All signals." Javier grabbed her shoulder. "Whatever epiphany you're having, now's not the—" "Quiet." She stabbed a finger at the screen. The aliens didn't just ask for help. They broadcast their doom. Lean went very still. The realization hit like a supernova. They wanted the Void Eaters to find us. Elara breathed. Not to kill us. To warn us the only way they could. Outside, the lights died. Emergency power kicked in, painting the bunker in blood-red gloom. The monitors fizzed with distortion as the Void Eaters passed Jupiter, swallowing its storms whole. Javier let out a shaky laugh. "So what with the universe's cautionary tale now?" "No." Lean moved to a sealed panel on the wall. Inputting codes Elara didn't recognize. "We're the trap." The panel hissed open, revealing a spherical device pulsing with blue light. Elara's breath caught. She'd seen schematics for this during her Black Ops briefings. A gravimetric warhead. City killer yield. Hale's voice returned, frayed at the edges. "Lean, that wasn't the plan. Plans change." She hefted the device with unsettling ease. "The Void Eaters consume energy, right? So we give them a meal they can't digest." Elara's stomach dropped. "You're going to detonate a black hole in our atmosphere. Asterisk artificial asterisk singularity. Very different." Lean's smile didn't reach her eyes. "It'll collapse their waveforms long enough for the remaining ships to—" The bunker shuddered. A monitor exploded in a shower of sparks as something scraped against the outer shields, a sound like planets grinding together. Javier backed toward the door. "They're here." The corridor outside was a graveyard of flickering lights and shattered glass. Somewhere deep in the facility, metal screamed as the Void Eaters peeled through bulkheads like foil. Lean sprinted ahead, the warhead cradled against her chest. "Roof access. We need altitude for detonation." Elara followed, her lungs burning. Behind them, the walls bulged inward, the air itself warping as the Void Eaters remade reality in their wake. Javier skidded to a stop at a collapsed stairwell. "We're not making it." "Then we do it here." Lean set the warhead down, her fingers dancing across its interface. The blue light pulsed faster. 30 seconds. Hale's voice cut through their earpieces one last time. "Godspeed, you mad bastards." The connection died. Javier grabbed Elara's hand. "Tell me you have another genius idea." She didn't. But as the walls began to dissolve, she remembered the aliens' final broken message. They follow signals. Elara yanked the emergency beacon from her belt and activated it. Lean's eyes widened. "Are you insane?" The Void Eaters rippled toward the pulsing signal, just as the warhead hit critical mass. The last thing Elara saw was the light, not the harsh glare of detonation, but something deeper, older, the light of 1,000 trapped stars finally breaking free.